Uh, Coach Nurleli merupakan corporate and executive leadership coach, mentor coach, dan advisor dengan 2.000 lebih jam coaching. She is also an author. Selamat malam, Master Coach Nurleli.
Selamat malam, Reni. Selamat malam, Mitra QR. Hi, Rob. Good to see you again. It's good to have you
Great to be
here.
here. Yeah, I'm so excited to be doing another live webinar with you today, Durleli.
Yes, yeah, same here too. Okay, Reni, thank you.
Oke, sebelum kita mulai acaranya pada malam hari ini, kita akan foto bersama terlebih dahulu. So, we gonna take a picture together. Kepada Bapak dan Ibu, boleh on cam sebentar, kita kasih waktu barangkali yang mau siap-siap dulu. Oke, kepada operator, mohon bantuannya. We will take the photo. Oke, one, two, three. Oke, terima kasih semuanya. Thank you everybody. Tanpa basa-basi lagi, mari kita mulai sesi diskusi kali ini. Jika selama diskusi tadi Mitra QR ada yang ingin bertanya, silakan gunakan fitur obrolan di Zoom atau YouTube dan ketik pertanyaannya. Kami akan menjawab saat sesi Q&A. Untuk membantu jalannya diskusi sekaligus menggali insight dari acara kali ini, tadi akan dipandu oleh moderator kita yang luar biasa. Langsung saja kita sambut dengan hangat Master Coach Nurleli Susetio. Master Coach Nurleli, kami persilakan.
Oke, terima kasih. Selamat malam. Good evening, everybody. Welcome again to our session. Mungkin I'd like to share something here, but before that, I like to talk about why we have this discussion. Minta tolong Dini ya untuk share. Okay, so it's very warm welcome to everybody and everyone that joined this session. For your information, tonight is our second session of our Glow Coach AI-powered talent strategy webinar series. It will be more to come. And for those who missed the first session, can watch it in the QR YouTube channel. We have the information later, or you can see it in the here. Is it here? No? Or maybe later. Okay. Anyway, so tonight we are discussing a critical question of every HR leaders, especially in OL area has organization learning. This question is, what is an excellent talent development program looks like that can really aligning employee growth and business goals? So why this question happened? Because there's a lot of noise out there that employees not happy with the program that they have to take. And in the other hand, a business also not get a real impact on that development program or a training or whatever they design to develop the talent. So another question that been asked here is that what are the fundamental elements and the gaps that needs to address, and what is the easier way to understand them? So this topic is not just timely in this rapid changing area, but it's a fundamental to navigating the future through a transformative solution. That's why we are here. We'll talk about the AI talent analytic that tackling the challenge in aligning people growth and business goals. So let's see why this is important. Okay, so there is some study done by many organizations, including McKinsey here, and we quote some Insight also, the recent study, that 87% of CEO facing or anticipating skill gap in their organization. So this will impact the business performance for sure, because this can lead to reduced productivity, increased cost, and hinder innovation, as employee may struggle with new technology or struggle to meet performance target. So one of the most important cause is we discussed this in the last previous session, is that is staff turnover, because this lead to talent shortage, and usually the new hire skill not quite up to the mark for the position they fill in, right? So that's first. And meanwhile, study also show that 94% here, almost all of the employees, we said that they will stay longer if they're given a greater investment in the professional development. Basically, employment will stay for development opportunity. So study also show proper training will reduce turnover of the employee by 30%. Okay, so that's why organizations worldwide are investing billions in talent development. Yet, employees remain disconnected from their growth journey, while business struggle to see measurable returns on their development investment. So if we see here, 55% of employee feeling more stressed about skill building requirements, and only 37% that feel satisfied with available training opportunities. And 41% even admit their work standard has lowered due to skill building stress. This is very interesting. So organization invest. HR work round the clock to develop or to build or to design the talent development program. But it's not here, not there. Nobody's happy, you know? So this is very, very, very challenging. So what it is the situation resulted in? So we see here, first is the engagement crisis. From the study also, we see that 82% of employees have actively looked for a new job just within 12 to 18 months of their employment. So it's very short period of service. They already starting looking for something else. And 71% of HR leaders struggling with these staffing challenges despite ongoing development program. So in the business perspective, the financial impact is huge. It's trillion, million of money or dollars lost because of this situation, from the investment of training investment that just completely lost when employees leave, and from the replacing the employee that costs twice of the annual salary of that employee, and all of that just gone because of this misaligned development. So if you see, the analogy is, if we replace, let's say, 25% of the employee annually, the potential loss from accessing costs can be up to 50% of staff costs. You know, that's huge impact because of this disalignment. So we try to understand what caused this situation. So if we see here, we can see there are two important factors here. First is very few, it's only 18% of HR leaders fully aligned with business strategy. This is very sad because HR is supposed to be a strategic partner of the business, right? But somehow it's only 18% of HR leaders fully aligned with the business strategy. So of course, whatever they do can be disconnect with the business goals or the business strategy that has been set. And other than that, it's only 52% of them that understand the current employee skill set. So no wonder, right? Because if they don't understand what is the employee skill set right now, how to fill the gap, right? So the common flow of the design of the development design is become subjective and biased. It's like one size fit all approach, generic skill assessment, classroom style learning, no follow up on impact measurement, and no clear connection to business goals. So, but this all over happen year after year after year because they need to come up with some program, right? So how the employees see this? So from the employee perspective, a training content does not match their career aspiration and no clear path from learning to advancement, and skills developed don't translate to daily work challenges. This has happened everywhere, and lack of personalized development journey. So as the result, from the business perspective, it's unable to measure return on investment, on development investment, and skill gaps persist despite training program, and high potential talent leaves for better growth opportunity. So development initiative don't support strategic business objective. So what question it leave us because of this situation? So this question I will ask Rob to explain it to us tonight. So we hope to get the answer from all of these challenges. First question that I'd like to ask Rob is that how can AI helps to tackle the fundamental issue in talent development program and business goal alignment? That's first question, Rob. And second, what are the key success factors for it to work? And can it help organization measuring the true return on investment of their talent development investment? By saying that, I think I leave the forum to Rob. Hello, Rob. You take over from here.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you, Nirleli, for that excellent introduction and setting up our discussion tonight. I think these are really critical questions that are fundamental to where we're going in terms of how the world is evolving in the way that it develops talent. And rather than just, spout out an answer to each one of these questions, what I would like to do is share some of the emerging technologies and frameworks that we're seeing come onto the scene as a result of this explosion in artificial intelligence. And I'd like to share some of the tools that we're developing that I believe address many of the very specific concerns that you mentioned. And I think that will make it a much more engaging and illustrative way to address these three really important questions. And then maybe at the very end, we can circle back and see if we haven't addressed those. Now, to do this, I'm going to jump in and start sharing a PowerPoint here. And let's see. Okay, let me know. Can you see my screen? Everybody see my screen here? Yes. Okay. Excellent. So now, normally I make when I do these presentations in front of a face-to-face audience, I make it very interactive. It's a little bit harder because I can't see how people are responding. So I'm going to go through this, but I do encourage anybody in the audience who wants to, share a thought or a comment along the way or has a question, we can make it more interactive. I'm happy to do that. Now, I'm guessing that most people in the audience today are using AI on a day-to-day basis. And what that basically means is you're using one of these LLMs. And an LLM, by the way, is the technical term like ChatGPT or Claude or Grok or Meta or now even DeepSeek, which is coming out of China. LLM stands for large language model. It's the technical term for these AIs. When I do these presentations, I see that nearly everybody in the audience is using AI on a day-to-day basis. And in the world of HR and talent development, that is true. And these AIs are super powerful. Essentially, you can ask any question you want to one of these AIs, and you do that in the form or a prompt, and it gives you an answer. And they can be extremely powerful in terms of how they are releasing us from some of the drudgery that we face in our daily job. So, for example, I actually did some research to find out what are some of the more common questions that are asked related to aligning business strategy with people strategy. So you could log into ChatGPT and you could ask it, what are the key competencies required to lead a digital transformation initiative? And I have no doubt that if you put this question into any one of those publicly available LLMs, you would get a pretty good answer from it. And it would save you having to figure that out on your own. You could ask it something like, how can we design a leadership development program that aligns with our business priorities? Again, it would give you some frameworks about how you might go about doing that. Or you could ask it, what are the best practices for measuring the ROI of talent development initiatives? Again, I'm sure that ChatGPT knows what all those best practices are, and it would give you a pretty good answer on that. And the reason, to set this up where this is going, the reason why these LLMs can, because essentially been trained on all the publicly available information on the internet. So in short, what Sam Altman did, the CEO of OpenAI, is he scarfed up every bit of publicly available information on the internet to train ChatGPT. So when you ask ChatGPT has already been trained on all the publicly available information on LinkedIn, for example. So it's easy for it to give you an answer to one of those questions. But what I would like to share with you today is that if this is how you were using ChatGPT, you're getting perhaps less than 20% of the value and the power and the capability out of today's state-of-the-art LLMs. So to give you some idea why I say that, what if you were to log into ChatGPT and ask it this question: who is the best person on my team to replace my head of sales? Here's where in a face-to-face crowd, I would ask, okay, show of hands, how many people did ChatGPT answer? And the answer is definitely, because ChatGPT has no idea who is sales, has no idea what's required in that particular role, in your company, in your industry. It cannot answer that question. What if you asked it, how well prepared is my team to execute our 2025 growth strategy? This is a really relevant question if you're trying to map your business strategy. But again, could ChatGPT or Grok or Claude give you an answer to this question? And the answer is definitely not. And of course, the reason is because ChatGPT doesn't know who's on your team, doesn't know what their capabilities are, doesn't know what your growth strategy is, and doesn't know what industry you're competing in. What if you add, what are the top people-related risks that could derail our 2025 strategy? How can we mitigate them? Again, very relevant strategy if your job is to align people strategy with business goals. GPT can't answer that question because it doesn't know. And oddly enough, and I think this is kind of a flaw of the way these LLMs are built, if you ask it these questions, it will give you an answer. And oftentimes it's going to hallucinate and give you an answer that is almost meaningless because it doesn't have the data behind it. The reason is, why are these LLMs that are so powerful and capable to answer some questions, when you get to questions that really speak to your business strategy and how it's aligning with people goals, why can it not answer those questions? And the answer is relatively simple, is because when Sam Altman was training ChatGPT on general knowledge, like 175 billion parameters available on the internet, the information required to answer the specific questions is stored either in your head or it's on private files that are on your hard drive, your personal hard drive, or your company. And for very good reason, most organizations have built a strong firewall that does not allow that information about who is your head of sales and what his capabilities are and what your strategy is. That information is not available on the public internet. And this is why ChatGPT is unable to answer those questions. It doesn't have access to the necessary information to analyze it and give you a good answer. And there are some studies that are being done now that are showing if this is how you're using these LLMs, you're only getting about 20% of the value out of them, maybe even less. What to do about that? Question to the audience. I would normally ask for a show of hands. How many of you have heard about retrieval augmented generation, otherwise known as RAG? I'm going to bet that for the audience today, most of you have not. And no, it's not the RAG that you use to wipe down your kitchen counter after breakfast this morning. Retrieval augmented generation is methodology that drastically increases the capabilities of the AI you're using, and I will explain how it works. I'm also going to make the prediction that while you might not be familiar with RAG today, over the next 18 months, you will hear about it more and more. And many organizations will be hiring consultants to come in and build RAG architectures so that they can better leverage AI. And basically, the way it works is when you have a RAG architecture, you have your knowledge that's stored on files in your computer. Again, these could be PDF documents, Word documents. They could be assessment reports from SHL or some other program that you're using. And what RAG does is it takes this data and it translates it into a different format and puts it in what's called a vector database. And I'm not going to geek out on you about what this all means. Suffice it to say that a vector database is A, it's different than the hard drive data on your computer, and B, it's been structured in such a way that makes it readily accessible to an LLM. So the first step is to put your data in a vector database. Now, the second step is to create what's called a framework that allows you to access that data in the vector database. And this framework sits between you and an LLM. And now, when you ask a particular query or question to the LLM, what it does is the framework will look inside your database and retrieve right information that's required to answer that question, and then pass that along to the LLM with a reformatted prompt. The LLM can now address your question, accessing the information that's relevant to that question from your vector database to give you a formatted answer that now addresses that specific query in a way that is really meaningful and powerful. And I'm going to demonstrate how that works. But with this new architecture, it takes your ability to leverage AI to a whole new level. With this type of architecture, you can now leverage AI to much more specifically align business and people strategies. So, for example, if you have this architecture available to you, you could ask it a question like, which individuals or teams in my organization are best positioned to drive growth in our priority markets? The AI will look at the data in your vector database, come and give you a pretty good answer about that. You could follow up that question with another question, like, among these leaders, what leadership gaps will most affect our ability to meet our next year's business targets? In this context, the AI now knows who are the leaders on your team, what are your big business targets, what industry you're in. It has all the information available so that it can actually answer this question in a very meaningful way. You could use it for succession. So you can say something like, please tell me which 3 team members on my current team are best suited to replace my head of sales, and explain the strengths and weaknesses of each person for this role. You could use it for tailored talent development. You could say something like, okay, please create a coaching strategy for Amir, my current head of sales. Be sure to make it specific recommendations about the type of development activities, such as training, mentoring, and coaching, that are going to be most appropriate for Amir to help him to get to the next level. Or you could use it for team development strategy. You could say something like, hey, I've got a budget for 2 workshops this year. Which topics will have the greatest impact on my team's performance? And then create an outline for a 2-day workshop that specifically addresses my team's current growth. So you can see this type of questions, you're actually getting much, much more specific, and you're leveraging AI to give you strategic insights into helping you make much better strategic decisions. And what I'd like to do now is actually, when you implement this RAG architecture, the same studies that show you're only getting percent out of the current public LLMs now show that you can actually jump 20% to game changer in assessments. And more importantly, when it does the assessment on individual, it captures that data directly to data. And then I'm going to show you our talent analytics suite, which is the framework that allows you to analyze all that data in your vector database to make strategic decisions. Before I do that, so both of these solutions, the OBA and talent analytics, are powered by Lance. Lance is the world's first AI-powered talent consultant. Before I do that, I want to reintroduce the Glow Coach. So we created this model about what we believe is full leadership excellence. It's comprised of competent developing yourself, developing relationships, developing your business. This is a very deep model. We were built over many thousands of hours of coaching and research, a lot of sure that we have behind it, and we're happy to share that with you. To say, one of the competency has a very clear definition, as well as libraries with respect to that competency. And the reason this will become evident very shortly when I share the demonstrations of the two solutions, the OBA, the talent analytics, because you'll see that framework coming up over and over again. So I wanted to share the framework first because it's a foundational element to the process. Now I want to share a little bit about the observation-based assessment. So briefly, the way that works is we've created our own assessment methodology. We call it OBA, and it is based on doing interviews with the talent and the people who work with the talent. So basically what we will do is we will do a one-on-one interview with the talent at the center here, and we want to understand from the talent's perspective, what are their key challenges? Where do they think they're strong? Where do they think they need to grow? Where do they want to go next? And the output of that interview is a document called the personal discovery. And this personal discovery, basically, it's the talent's view of the world. Then we also want to interview the people who work closely with the talent. We always want to interview the talent's line manager. We call it talent leader. And then we want to interview one or two peers, maybe one or two direct reports. Collectively, we call them sponsors. And each of these is all interview. And the output of that interview, this is, and it outlines three things from the sponsor's perspective. What does the talent do really well? Where does it improve in order to get to the next level? And the third key point is, what would the talent's ideal behaviors look like after a highly customized intervention, such as coaching or training? Now, after we've done all of these interviews, in this case, there would be a total of 5 interviews, we create a document that very clearly outlines what are the talent's strengths, what are their blind spots, where do they need to grow, what do their ideal behaviors look like. And it also includes a forward-looking growth plan. So for some of the core issues that Nurleli was mentioning early on, things like generic assessments that don't really touch to the core of what the talent's doing. We've seen that over and over again. If you look at survey-based assessments like DISC, DISC squeezes everybody into one of 4 colors. You're a blue person, I'm a green person, she's a yellow person, and all blue people behave like this. And when I read my DISC report, or even like a Hogan or some of those other survey-based reports, it's a little bit like reading my horoscope. Kind of feels like me, but it could also be somebody else. It's kind of directionally correct. When you read the Glow Coach observation-based assessment, it's much more like a fingerprint. It's very, very contextually specific, and it doesn't just tell you what the problem is, but it gives you action plan and next steps for what to do next. Now, to be fair, we didn't create the concept of a 360-based interview-based assessment. In fact, you could hire somebody like Korn Ferry or Aon Hewitt or Egon Zehnder. They will send a team of consultants to your office to do these interviews. It might take a day or two. When they're done with the interviews, 1 or 2 months later, they'll send you a similar report to our integrated report. It's a beautiful report. They do a great job, but it's going to take you 1 or 2 months to get that report, and it's going to cost you 15 or 20,000 US dollars per report because they have to pay those consultants to travel to your office and write all that stuff up. So what I want to show you next is how, using the power of AI and Lance, the world's first AI-powered talent consultant, how we can deliver that $20,000 consultant-driven, interview-driven assessment, and we can do it for a few $100s. And now make this type of super accurate, bespoke, fingerprint accurate assessment available to the entire organization. And not only that, but all the data from this interview gets put into that vector database, which will take me to the next step, how you can use AI to analyze it. So let me stop sharing this and share another screen here. I have to connect my phone to my computer. It'll take me just a few seconds here. Okay, and I have to remember to share the sound, which I forget half the time. Share sound. Okay. All right, I am sharing my iPhone screen, and I assume everybody can see it here. So if an organization were to embrace GlowCoach's OBA, the observation-based assessment, basically what happens is somebody on the HR team will identify who are the talents. All you need to do is log into our platform, your account on our platform. You identify which talents are being assessed. You enter their name, their email, their title. For each talent, you identify who are the sponsors. Again, it's super easy. Enter their name, their title, their email, and you click go. After you click go, our website does our platform does everything. It sends out emails to all the participants explaining what they need to do, how to prepare for their interviews. They all just go to the GlowCoach app store, or the Apple Store or the Android store, and they download the GlowCoach app. Now, if you are a talent, if I am a talent who's being assessed, my name will always be at the top. So you can see it says self-assessment interview for Rob Avenat. That is where Lance will interview me to get my perspective, the talent's perspective about the world. What are my challenges? Where do I want to grow, etc. However, you can see, so my name's at the top here, Rob Avenat, CEO. But my HR has said, hey, Rob, we need you to provide feedback for 4 of your colleagues, Anna de Armas, Toby Maguire, James Bond, and Lois Lane. My HR said, I need to be a sponsor for each of these 4 people. So whenever it's convenient for me, a coffee break on the subway, on the way to the office, after dinner, whenever I have, 30 minutes, I go ahead and I click start. And so I'm going to do my interview for Lois. I need to provide feedback on Lois Lane. So I'm going to go ahead and start that interview.
It's good to see you again, Rob. This interview will be similar to the one we had recently. We can begin straight away, or I can briefly remind you of the process and expectations. Would you like to jump in, or would you prefer I give you a brief overview first?
Oh, hey, Lance. Yeah, good to see you again. I know we did this before, but forgive me, it's been a long day. I forget what I'm supposed to do. Can you give me that overview first, please?
Of course, Rob. GlowCoach specializes in personalized development, offering tailored solutions designed to help individuals achieve their personal and professional goals. Our interview process typically takes around 20 to 30 minutes, and while it's recommended to complete it in one session, you can pause and resume later if needed. Please feel free to share any thoughts that come to mind during our discussion. Ready to continue?
Yeah, let's go ahead and jump in. I know what I need to do now.
Great. Let's dive in. Can you tell me a little bit about your relationship to Lois? For instance, how long and in which roles you've known her? How long have you worked together?
Yeah, so Lois joined our team about 7 months ago as our head of sales. And in that capacity, she is reporting directly to me. I'm her line manager. And we communicate on a daily basis. I'd say so far we have a pretty good working relationship.
Thanks for that context, Rob. It sounds like you've had a solid working relationship since Lois joined and have been closely involved in her day-to-day activities. When thinking of Lois, what are the first three words that come to mind?
Oh, good question. I would say that Lois is strategic. She is diligent, and she's good at influencing people.
Thanks for sharing strategic, diligent, and influential. That combination suggests Lois takes a thoughtful and long-term approach to her work, remains thorough in execution, and can effectively guide or persuade others. That's really helpful context for the rest of our conversation. What's one strength of Lois that stands out to you?
I would say it's her strategic thinking.
Got it. Let's explore that a bit more. Could you elaborate on the specific behaviors that show her strategic thinking in action? What does that look like day to day?
Well, when she first joined the team, she took stock of our current situation and she came up with a strategic plan for us to achieve our 2025 targets. Then she made sure that everybody on her team knew what their role was in the plan, what their KPIs were, and she rolled that plan out. I would say that was when I first started to see that she's really a strategic thinker.
That's a great example. So it sounds like her strategic thinking is reflected in how she assesses the bigger picture, aligns the team with clear roles, and ensures everyone is on the same page toward long-term goals. What kind of positive impact has this had on the team or the business outcomes so far?
Since she rolled that plan out, I see that the sales team shows up at the office and they get to work straight away. They know what their targets are. They know what they need to do. They're not really spinning their wheels. So I feel like they're much more efficient and they are, I already see the impact on our sales funnel getting much fatter.
That's impressive. It seems her strategic approach has really driven clarity and focus, making the team more efficient and productive. That must have a significant effect on morale and performance. Could you share more about how Lois's strategic thinking
I
influences
could,
the
Lance, but
longer-term
it's
vision for
already
the team or the
8:45
business?
here in KL. I haven't had dinner yet and my stomach is rumbling. Can you help to order a pizza for me?
I can imagine you must be hungry after a long day. Let's focus on our interview for now, and we can keep it concise so you can get to dinner soon. We were talking about how Lois's strategic thinking impacts the long-term vision. Could you give a brief example of how this plays out over the next few years? Then we can wrap
I
up the
could,
strengths
Lance, but come
section.
to think of it, I don't really like Lois. I think she's kind of a jerk, and I don't want to do this stupid interview.
I appreciate your honesty, but let's keep the conversation focused on constructive feedback. If there are any specific areas where you'd like to see Lois grow or improve, that would be helpful for her development. Could we focus on that next?
Actually, you know what, Lance? It's not really a good time. I'm in the middle of delivering a webinar. Can we actually pick up this conversation? Can we continue it tomorrow, please?
Thanks for letting me know, Rob. We can definitely continue another time. Just let me know when you're ready to pick this up, and we'll dive right back in. Have a
Okay, so I can save my progress with my interview on Lois. I'm going to discard it because I need a demo case for the future. But another 15, 20 minutes, I would be done with my interview. Now, had I finished that interview, Lance would immediately produce for me that talent builder matrix that I spoke about. And in fact, I did finish my interview for Anna, and he produces the TBM immediately, and he summarizes the conversation according to the three areas where I see Anna has her strengths, where I see she needs to grow, and what her ideal behaviors would look like. And so if we dig into that, here you can see where Lance summarized the conversation. He summarized what I described as Anna's behavior, as well as how that impacts business outcomes. Remember, this is touching now on another pain point with current assessments out there that don't really actually have any linkage to business outcomes. Here, you can see how we're directly tying behaviors to business outcomes. And you can see that Lance does a fantastic job at summarizing this, and he gets rid of all the distractions about me being hungry or the ums and ahs or whatever. He just puts a nice, concise summary, but he does it in my own words. What's really impressive, though, is how Lance links it to that competency model. Remember, I shared the competency model. So you can see here, he looked at what I said about her behaviors and the business outcomes, and he said, this links to embracing change. This is one of Anna's strength competencies. And then he did, for the rest of the conversation, he did the same thing. So basically, he outlined two competencies that, from my perspective, I think Anna does well. It's embracing change and demonstrating initiative. Then he summarizes the growth competencies. And again, he links it to the 32 competency model, executive presence and building followership are where I think she needs to grow. And then perhaps most importantly, he captures my perspective about what I think Anna's ideal behaviors would look like 6 to 12 months in the future. So here you're getting really, really rich data that is very specific to Anna and very forward-looking. Now, I want to show you what Lance does after he does all the interviews. I want to show you that integrated report that we talked about. But before I jump to the integrated report, I do want to note that Lance is a very talented fellow. So in fact, Lance can conduct these conversations and produce the reports in a whole host of different languages. And since Glow Coach is focused on developing talent in Southeast Asia, we've added not just European languages, but also you can see we have 3 different versions of Chinese. We have Cantonese, Chinese Simplified, Chinese Traditional. We also have Bahasa Indonesian and Bahasa Melayu. And later this month, we will be launching Vietnamese. Lance already speaks Thai. He's quite the talented fellow. So with that, I would like to just pause here for a minute and invite Nurleli. Nurleli, would you like to demonstrate how well Lance can do an interview in Bahasa Indonesian?
Yeah. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, hold on, share screen. Can you see that? Can you see my iPhone screen now? Okay, so this is me, and like Rob before, saya adalah talentsnya, tetapi saya juga menjadi sponsor untuk beberapa orang. Di sini ada Dini, ada Virus, ada Nabila. Nah, ini saya gunakan bahasa Indonesia. Kita coba untuk, saya coba Nabila ya. Nabila, saya mulai. Sorry. Oke.
Senang bertemu lagi dengan Anda, Bu Nurleli. Wawancara kali ini akan mirip dengan yang kita lakukan minggu lalu. Kita bisa langsung mulai, atau jika Anda mau, saya bisa memberi pengantar singkat tentang proses dan ekspektasi. Apakah Anda ingin langsung mulai, atau lebih suka saya berikan gambaran dulu?
Bisa berikan gambaran dulu, Lans?
Tentu. Proses wawancara ini biasanya berlangsung sekitar 20-30 menit, dan disarankan kita selesaikan dalam satu sesi. Namun Anda bisa berhenti sejenak dan melanjutkan nanti jika diperlukan. Silahkan berbagi pemikiran apapun selama diskusi, karena itu akan membantu memahami lebih dalam tentang Nabila dan pengembangannya. Siap untuk lanjut?
Oke.
Baik, sebelum kita mulai, bisa ceritakan sedikit tentang hubungan Anda dengan Nabila? Misalnya, sudah berapa lama Anda mengenal dan bekerja bersama beliau, dan dalam peran apa saja?
Nabila merupakan salah satu tim saya yang ikut bersama-sama saya dari awal kami mendirikan perusahaan. Nabila menjadi berperan banyak hal selain sebagai HR manager. Nabila juga eh, coach dan juga konsultan HR di dalam perusahaan kami. Hubungan kerja kami sangat baik dan Nabila sangat bisa saya andalkan.
Terima kasih atas penjelasannya. Jadi Nabila sudah bersama Anda sejak awal perusahaan berdiri dan memegang banyak peran penting. Itu tentu mencerminkan kepercayaan yang kuat. Sebelum kita masuk lebih dalam, jika Anda memikirkan Nabila, 3 kata pertama apa yang muncul di benak Anda untuk menggambarkannya?
Menurut saya Nabila resilience mungkin satu, very business oriented dan juga resourceful.
Terima kasih sudah berbagi 3 kata tersebut. Resilience menunjukkan ketangguhan Nabila dalam menghadapi tantangan, business oriented mencerminkan fokusnya pada hasil dan strategi bisnis, dan resourceful mengindikasikan kemampuannya menemukan solusi kreatif. Kombinasi ini jelas menciptakan gambaran seorang profesional yang tangguh, berorientasi pada hasil, dan selalu punya cara untuk memecahkan masalah. Ini konteks yang sangat berguna untuk pembicaraan kita selanjutnya. Mari kita lanjut ke pembahasan tentang kekuatan utama Nabila di pekerjaan. Apa satu kekuatan yang
Nabila
paling menonjol menurut Anda?
sangat punya bisnis orientasi ya. Jadi eh, dan juga tidak pernah berhenti untuk mencoba dalam mewujudkan tujuan atau goals bisnis yang sudah kita set. Dan dia sangat fokus dan persisten serta konsisten untuk menjalankan atau mencapai tujuan tersebut.
Jadi, fokus dan ketekunan Nabila dalam mencapai tujuan bisnis benar-benar menonjol. Bisa Ibu jelaskan sedikit lebih detail tentang perilaku spesifik yang Nabila tunjukkan saat mengejar target bisnis? Misalnya, bagaimana dia memastikan semua orang tetap pada jalur, atau bagaimana dia mengatasi tantangan untuk
Ya,
mencapai target
bisa
tersebut?
saja, tapi saya sekarang sedang dalam sesi lain, jadi saya tidak punya waktu, belum punya waktu saat ini. Mungkin nanti kita teruskan kembali.
Tentu, tidak masalah sama sekali. Kita bisa lanjutkan kapanpun Anda punya waktu lagi. Terima kasih sudah berbagi sejauh ini, Bu Nurleli. Sampai ketemu lagi nanti.
Oke, so that's in bahasa, Lance in bahasa. Back to
Excellent.
you, Ran.
Yeah, thank you for demonstrating that. So that was to show that Lance indeed is quite capable, and he can do these interviews in a wide range of languages. Now, what happens when Lance finishes all of the interviews for a particular talent? He will immediately produce the OBA report, which I will share next. So here, what we're looking at is Anna's OBA report. Now, this is actual data. Anna is a real person. Obviously, we've changed her name. So Lance did 5 interviews. He interviewed Anna, and then he interviewed 4 sponsors: Liam, Felix, Ethan, and Ava. And with this report, one of the first things you'll see is a visual representation of Anna's strengths and her growth areas. So here, we're looking, we see all 32 competencies in our competency model. And we see where she's starting to get concentrations of strength. So we can see, for example, that driving results is emerging as one of her key strengths. However, over here, we see that EQ was referenced by 3 of the 4 sponsors as a blind spot. So immediately you get this visual sense about where Anna has strength and where she needs to grow. Then Lance will summarize that in language that you don't need a certified consultant to interpret for you. We've designed this from the ground up to be very accessible, so you can read the reports yourselves. But here it explains very clearly what are Anna's strengths, and it's noting that, driving results, for example, is one of her key strengths. The blue text you see is where Lance selectively chose quotations from some of the interviewees to give context to why Anna is good at driving results. And now you're starting to see how this type of assessment just goes so far beyond survey-based assessments, which give you this generic kind of view of what somebody is good at, based on statistical probabilities. This is much more contextually precise about Anna's specific behaviors, why she's good at developing or driving results. Lance will summarize her growth areas. So here we can see, he noted that 3 out of the 4 people indicated EQ was one of Anna's blind spots. So he put that in the first paragraph. That deserves top level attention. He brought out some quotes to give context to it. So he makes it very clear what, from the perspective of her 360 team, what are Anna's blind spots and where does she need to grow? Then he does a summary of his conversation or his interview with Anna herself. And he summarizes what are her biggest challenges through her eyes and also where she wants to grow. And one of the reasons why I like this particular case study is because when Lance asked Anna, where do you want to grow? She said, look, I want to enhance my ability for EQ. And Lance is smart. He picks up on that and he says, he says, look, 3 of the 4 sponsors indicated EQ is an issue, and she also wants to improve that. That shows that Anna has good self-awareness. She's probably a good coaching candidate because she has good self-awareness. And then Lance goes to the next level. Remember, most other assessments out there, they tell you a problem, they don't give you a solution or what to do next. Lance gives you a clear direction where Anna needs to go. So he says, based on all this data, Anna should focus on growing her EQ and her ability to lead teams. He explains why, if she can improve her ability to her EQ, how that's going to impact her performance. And again, remember, one of the key problems is that a lot of talent development initiatives have no connection at all to business performance. With this methodology, we have very clearly tied specific behaviors to business outcomes. And Lance is explaining how, if Anna can improve her EQ, how that's going to impact her performance. And then he takes it one level deeper and he says, it's not just about EQ, because EQ is kind of a vague concept. Somebody tells you, you need to improve your EQ. What does that mean? How do I do that? Lance says, look, based on the data, to improve your EQ, Anna, you need to develop the ability to include active listening and conflict management, respond professionally rather than reacting emotionally, and share alternate points of view more constructively. So Lance is getting very specific on intervention level behaviors that she needs to change in order to perform at a higher level. And even when we go to the quantitative aspects, I know a big challenge in HR is, the CFO is always saying, why are we spending so much money in talent development? How can, what's the ROI in this? Here, there's an opportunity for Anna's line manager to rate her before an intervention on each of these abilities. And then with Glow Coach, we would put her into one of our coaching programs. And then we would ask the line manager to rate her again after the coaching program. We see outstanding growth that is not measured by Glow Coach, because obviously we're going to tell you the person grew a lot, but it's measured by Anna's line manager, who says she started at a 3. After a 12-hour coaching program, she's now at a 6. And remember, this is all linked to business outcomes. We've linked everything to that competency model and specifically to Anna's business outcomes. So you're getting a direct quantitative measure for the investment you've put into Anna, how this is impacting business outcomes. And this is what a typical OBA report would look like that we can produce, not for $20,000, but for a few $100s per person. And before we close out here, I know we have less than half an hour left and we want to leave some room for questions. I want to show how this translates into the original RAG architecture. The first thing to note is this report is automatically put in that vector database. so that it's accessible for the AI to read it. And remember, there's two parts to the RAG architecture. There's the vector database and the framework that allows you to access the data in that database. What we've created, I'm going to share next, is a framework that would allow you to access and analyze this data. So what I'm sharing now is my dashboard for 47 talents on my team who have gone through the observation-based assessment. Now, for these 47 talents, Lance has done 190 interviews. You can imagine how much it would cost you if you hired a team of consultants to come in and do those interviews. And with this, I get a dashboard where I can immediately see 47 talents, 190 interviews, 312 strength behaviors, 217 growth behaviors. These are my team's top 5 strength competencies, so I know this team is really good at functional expertise. These are my team's top 5 blind spots. What's interesting about this is these 47 talents, most of them are my engineers in Jaipur, India. As an engineer myself, I'll be the first to admit that communication is not always an engineer's strong point. So I'm not surprised to see that communicating with credibility is the #1 blind spot among these 47 talents on my team. Now I can drill down and I can see, for example, the 32 competencies, how they're spread as strengths. I can see the top 10 strength competencies, the middle third, the bottom third. I get a detailed AI analysis where Lance is reading all 190 interviews and he's giving me an analysis about what this means for business performance. I can look at my team's blind spots. And again, I see the top 10 competencies that are blind spots, the middle third, the bottom third. And again, I get an AI analysis where Lance is actually reading 190 interview documents and producing a so what that these are my team's top 5, these are my team's top blind spots. How's that going to impact business performance? Then I can use what's called the T-map to evaluate my team against different sets of competencies. So for example, I can look at my team's top 10 strength competencies, which are these competencies. Or I could look at, for example, the 11 competencies in the pillar developing your business, which are related to things like strategic thinking, solving problems, business agility. And every time I load a different set of competencies, you can see the dots are all rearranging. Each of these dots represents a talent on my team. So I can roll over it and I see that this is actually Yue Wu, who was one of the talents on our team. I can click on this and I immediately get the data from his OBA report. So I can see what are his strength competencies, where are his blind spots, and I can drill down and I can see the actual OBA report. So I can see, do I agree with this particular positioning of UA on the T-map? And the way it works is if a talent has strengths that align with these particular competencies, they go higher up on the vertical axis. And if they have blind spots that align with these competencies, they go further to the right. So basically, top left good, bottom right not good. And I can look at different sets of competencies to see who is always in the top left, depending on which set of competencies I'm looking at. This is extremely valuable because, and you can do a customized version of these competencies by clicking here and just selecting the competencies that you want to evaluate your team against. This is extremely valuable for helping you to map your people strategy to your business goals. Because effectively what you can do is you can choose different sets of competencies that are going to be relevant for different business goals. And you can see who in your team are showing up in the top left. In other words, they have strengths in these competencies, but they don't have blind spots. And then you can drill in. And then take it one level deeper, going back to those original questions. We've created this RAG architecture such that you can now ask any question you want to Lance, and Lance will answer it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to copy a question that I typed out earlier because you guys don't want to watch me type. I'm going to pick one. Okay, let's do this one. We want to map our people strategy to the business strategy. Now, remember, remember, the data shows me that for this particular team, their biggest blind spot is communicating with credibility. So now I know what direction I need to go in with talent development to address that issue. In fact, I can even ask the AI here, I can say, create a 2-day workshop on communicating with credibility that specifically addresses my team's current growth needs. Each day should start at 9 a.m., finish by 5:30, 9-minute lunch break. Be sure to include at least 2 breakout exercises each day. I even spelled include wrong. And I can click this. Lance is going to read all of this data, and he's going to come back with a customized workshop specifically addressing my team's inability to communicate effectively. And he's choosing topics in a format that will most accurately help them get to the next level. Or I could ask it a question. I could go here and I could upload. I'm going to upload a document here. I'm going to go to Glow Coach, HR, job descriptions, and I'm going to upload a document for, let's see, what document should I upload? I'll just upload this key account manager. So now Lance has uploaded this. This now becomes part of my vector database, this particular job description. And now I can ask Lance a question like, please tell me which 3 team members, that's the wrong question. I'm going to ask a different question here. Let me ask this question. Please tell me which 3 team members on my current team are best suited to replace Glow Coach as head of sales, and explain the strengths and weaknesses of each role. Now I've uploaded some additional data here that Lance can analyze, and I can click Ask Lance. Lance is again going to read all this data that's in the vector database and come back and give me a recommendation for this. So basically, with this format, you can now engage with the AI just like you would engage with ChatGPT, but you have all of this data in your vector database that Lance becomes your partner, your strategic partner, helping you make better strategic decisions by rapidly analyzing tons of data in a split second to give you strategic insights. And if you had to, for example, if your CEO said, look, I need you to come up with a plan to replace the head of sales, he's retiring, please come back with a plan. You could log in here, you could select your team apps, all the competencies you need, you could add this question. Then you come down here to the export, you get this beautiful PDF report that has all the data already outlined for you, your team apps, your question that you asked, and all able to present. You could, with a few clicks of a button, you could get all this data at your fingertips in just a few minutes. So that's an overview of where AI is going, this RAG architecture that makes your data readily accessible and how you can use this internally. I'm going to stop here, Nirlali, and maybe we turn it back. Did we answer the original 3 questions, how AI can be used to help us get to the next level with mapping people strategy and business strategy? Maybe open it up to the audience for some additional questions.
All right. Thank you, Rob. Very rich explanation. And again, I heard this couple of times already, but I still learned something new. But before we ask the audience whether they have question, I believe they do, I'd like to make a little bit of conclusion what I understand. So the assessment that done with Lance, it give a clear picture to HR, because this is the issue that we talked about before. Give a clear picture on the talent current skill as well as their aspiration. And also because the supervisor or the boss of the talent can rate the performance aligned with the competency that's now and after, it also can easily give the business impact lah, basically. But maybe I have question first. So what if we have another what you call it, set a business expectation or business goals? So how it can be, like imply or slide into the whole thing here to make sure the alignment of the program or the uh, everything that we do for the develop the talent.
Sure. That's a great question, Nuleli. And basically, with this architecture, the way it's built, when you go to that feature where you can upload a document, if you have a new business objective, however you've defined that, whether it's a Word document, a PPT, whatever documentation you have about that new business objective, you upload it, it becomes part of that database, the vector database. So now, when you go back to Lance and you ask it more questions about, how well is prepared as my team to execute on this business objective, Lance knows what your new objective is and it can answer that question. And the power here is just amazing. When you think about 190 interview documents plus whatever you've uploaded, and the ability to analyze that in a split second and get a specific answer to a question, whereas before, you pay McKinsey $1 million to come in and answer that question for you. You can now do, in a split second, typing it in your computer and you get that answer right away.
Wow, excellent. All right. So I think this is a very, very, very valuable information and knowledge that we gain here, all Mitra QR. So I think I'll give it to host or host. You want to right away go to the Q and answer?
Oke, thank you Master Coach Nureli. Jadi sebelum masuk mungkin ke sesi selanjutnya ya, sesi Q&A, ada sedikit informasi terkait dengan program Glow Coach terlebih dahulu ya. Bagi mitra QR yang ingin mengetahui lebih dalam tentang Glow Coach dan bagaimana cara untuk optimalisasi talent strategy, mitra QR dapat scan barcode yang ada di layar. Nah, langsung aja segera book trial Glow Coach sekarang juga. Dan untuk mitra QR ketahui, bagi Bapak Ibu yang terpilih akan mendapatkan reward berupa Glow Coach Trial dan buku I'm in Charge, yaitu buku tentang self-development karya Master Coach Nureli Susetio, PCC CMC MPS. So, okay, now it's time to interact with the audience. So, we will jump into the Q&A session. Kepada mitra QR mungkin yang ingin mengajukan pertanyaan selain dapat menggunakan fitur kolom chat, juga bisa bertanya langsung kepada keynote speaker-nya. Nah, silahkan gunakan fitur raise hand, aktifkan video, tunggu hingga diberi kesempatan untuk berbicara. Dan diperbolehkan juga untuk bertanya pakai bahasa Indonesia ya.
Iya.
Oke, untuk sesi Q&A ini akan saya kembalikan lagi ke moderator.
Oke, thank you Reni. Ini udah ada beberapa pertanyaan. Satu dari Pak Setia Rahadi. Pak Setia Rahadi mau langsung bertanya atau saya baca aja di chat? Itu sudah ada Pak Setia? Pak Setia? Oke, saya bacakan aja. So, yes, silakan Pak Setia. Silakan.
The question is whether this one is SAIS, and then my question is simple: just where is the data is stored?
So yes, this is essentially a SaaS solution, although it goes a little bit beyond that because it's part of an integrated solution that includes coaching, where we have we have over 400 coaches in our platform. So it's part of an integrated solution. But when you're engaging with Lance, it's a SaaS solution. The data is all secure on our own proprietary architecture. We are ISO 9000 compliant. We are GDPR compliant. We have a triple layer security protocol so that when you're doing your interview with Lance, any PII, personal identification information, is encrypted and it's stored locally on our own servers. It does not go out to the public internet, which is very different. If you were to ask these questions to the public version of ChatGPT, whatever you upload, whatever you ask becomes available in the public internet. Everything we do is very, very secure. We're running our own proprietary version of OpenAI, of ChatGPT. It's not using the public version. So everything is very secure on our own internal servers.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you.
Oke, thank you Pak Satya. Ada lagi Jose. Jose, you wanna ask your question or you want me to read it for you?
Yeah, I can ask questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Jose.
Yeah, looking at the demo that you're doing, live demo with Lance, it seems very sophisticated, very good, and Lance is replying quite well on any topic. So I was just wondering, because Lance is quite flexible and multi-talented too. He knows a lot of things, including, casual stuff and stuff. So can we use Lance for other things? Let's say a job interview or maybe a performance KPI, annual performance interview, um, which is, I think, very easy as well. So obviously what we need is the report, right? I mean, the assessment, the report. So the interview is an interview. Anybody can do it, but then making a report, that will be quite valuable if Lance can do that.
Absolutely. In fact, we're looking at Lance becoming essentially the one-stop talent consultant for the entire talent lifecycle. So in Q3, we're launching Lance. So what you saw today was Lance for observation-based assessment. The OBA is used when you're determining whether or not somebody is ready to hire for a new position. It's used when you're evaluating succession planning. It's used when you're putting somebody into some sort of coaching program. It's a typical assessment that you would use at that stage. We're launching in Q3 Lance for it's going to be talent touch base. It's essentially a performance review where Lance will participate in an interview with the line manager and the talent to reflect on what were the talent's wins, successes, and shortcomings in the most recent period. Did they achieve their KPIs? And you could do this at regular periods throughout the year. And then Lance will condense that into a report that would become your performance review. That will be TTB, or Talent Touch Base. Also developing a version of Lance that will be for a behavior event interview that you would use from outside talent that you're bringing into the organization, and you want to interview that person to see whether or not they have the full suite of capabilities for a particular role. And it's a different interview than the observation-based assessment, which is primarily based on observation from colleagues. The BEI will be based a behavioral event interview, if you're familiar with that concept. And Lance will do that. So you'll have Lance for recruitment with BEI, for performance assessment with Talent Touch Base, and you already have Lance for assessments for succession planning, etc., with the observation-based assessment.
Okay, did it answer question ya, Jose? Okay, there is another question from Bapak Mahendra Adiwijaya from Paper ID. Thanks for sharing, Rob. Definitely an interesting product you have there. If it is okay, I would like to ask, how soon do you think companies in CS, Southeast Asia, I believe, or maybe Indonesia in specific, going to start adopting this in massive scale?
So that is already happening. In fact, for the last 20 years, I've been living in China. I was most recently living in Shanghai, China. And 2 weeks ago, actually the 1st of July, I moved to Malaysia. And I'm now a resident here in KL, not very far from, just a short hop away from Jakarta. The reason behind that is because we see Lance is being designed specifically to support talent in Southeast Asia. We think KL is a good hub for that. And we're already seeing significant traction in KL. We're supporting, for example, NXP Semiconductor, a massive US semiconductor company. We're supporting Worth. Worth is a German industrial manufacturing company. And we're supporting now RHB Bank, Air Selangor, Terrace, a bunch of companies here in KL. It's growing very, very fast. And we're already supporting other companies in Southeast Asia at a much larger scale. So, for example, Siemens, we're actually supporting Siemens in a multiple of cities across Southeast Asia as well as Germany. We're supporting TSMC in Taiwan. So it's already starting to happen. Keep in mind that Lance was just launched at the beginning of the year. In fact, Lance had his first customer in January, and then that was a beta version. We didn't launch version 1.0 of Lance until March. So Lance is already seeing explosive growth because when people try it, they realize it is a complete game changer when it comes to talent assessment. So we're already seeing really rapid growth with this.
Yeah, very true. Because you should try, Pak Mahendra. Maybe you should sign up for the trial so then you can experience it yourself, and also mitra QR semua di sini, right? Ada lagi pertanyaan?
Ya, dari saya Bu lagi Bu ya.
Oke, monggo Pak.
Rob, thank you so much. I'm interested with this one. And then my question is whether you open the API so that we can also use the different what is called the other behavior tools, or maybe something else like the neurometric kind of assessment.
Yeah. Yes. In fact, there's already a feature. If you are a talent who is being assessed with the OBA by Lance, as soon as you log in, Lance will ask you if you have done any other what we call 3PAs or third-party assessments. So if you have a Hogan assessment, an SHL, a Strength Finder, you can upload that. And then when Lance does all of the other interviews and he puts together your report, he will include a summary of your 3PA and its potential impact on your behaviors. So, for example, he might look at your Hogan report and say, Hogan says your strengths are X, Y, your behavioral profile is X, Y, Z. This might explain why you have this particular behavior that your team is observing. And we did this because we know so many of our customers, they really struggle. They're using all of these different, survey-based assessments. Many companies are using 2, 3, 4 assessments at the same time. This is a nightmare for the HR because you have all these different assessments that say different things. You don't know how to standardize them, like how to get a standardized view across your whole team. Now, for the first time ever, there's a tool called Lance that will give you a standardized view across whatever assessment you've been using in a standardized format, all mapped against the 32 competency model. So that is something we've already built into this because we saw that need and that demand early on.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Rob. And any plan to flying to Jakarta in any time?
Yeah, I was there not too long ago, and I was just speaking with Nirleli saying that it's a short flight away, and I am very eager to support Nirleli as she's growing this AI tool in the market. So yes, I do plan. I don't have a specific date yet, but I think I'll work with Nirleli and we'll figure out when I'll be back in the not too distant future.
Contact Bu Nirleli.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, QR Glow Coach partner di Indonesia, Pak Setia. So we can set sometimes if you need to discuss further with Rob. Rob only, like one flight away, only 1.5 hours flight. Bisa kita set waktunya ya Pak Setia.
So you are based in
Okay.
Malaysia ya?
Iya, di Kuala Lumpur
KL,
sekarang. Udah gampang. Sebelumnya di Shanghai agak susah ya. Jadi sekarang udah agak gampang. Okay, Rob, one last question. I think we ran out of the time. Because this question is asked a lot by the client that I trying to approach. Is that what if we already different set of in organization. We don't not really adopt. You're not familiar with the 32 lunch coach competence. We have our own set, or we have a specific job desk for specific function that we want to know to assess, the talent that we want to assess. So how we incorporate it into the, all of these analytic, all of these, Lance work and capability.
Another great question. We have created an AI-powered module called Talent Sync. What Talent Sync does is, if your organization has an existing competency model, you send it to us in whatever format, PDF, Word document, whatever. We drop it into Talent Sync. Talent Sync will map our leadership model to your model. So that way, as we go through the rest of the journey, you can see Lance outputting the reports using your terminology. So we've already built that in there, and that makes Lance relevant in your organization. So all the output will feel like it's your own company's language. And this has proven to be a very powerful solution that allows us to very quickly integrate with the way organizations have structured. So that's how we handle that.
That's true, because people don't want to start from the scratch, because like Pak Satya question before, what if we already have this, already have that? So how to make a much bigger impact because we adopt this AI-powered talent strategy or approach. All right, so I think our time is up, right, Rennie? So I think I give it back to you. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Pak Satya, Pak Mahendra, Jose, for the question. Very, very good interaction and discussion. I'm really enjoying it.
Thank you, everybody. Really enjoyed it. And thank you, Nurleli.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Nurleli.
Okay.
Oke, thank you Rob and Master Coach Nurleli yang telah memandu jalannya diskusi juga yang luar biasa tadi ya. Nah, mungkin sebelum kita menutup acara malam hari ini, kami akan mengumumkan pemenang reward tadi untuk free Glow Coach Trial dan buku I'm in Charge. Untuk pemenangnya, jadi reward akan diberikan kepada yang pertama Bapak Setia Rahadi. Kemudian yang kedua adalah Bapak Mahendra Adi Wijaya. Nah, kemudian tadi yang ketiga juga ada Pak Jose. Nah, jadi selamat kepada para penerima reward, nanti akan dihubungi oleh admin QR untuk keperluan selanjutnya. Nah, Bapak Ibu sekalian, as a special privilege for you, kami membuka beberapa priority slots untuk sesi trial Glow Coach. Nah, honestly ini antusiasmenya overwhelming gitu ya. Antrean pendaftarnya ini udah panjang. Nah, ini jadi kesempatan untuk mendapatkan akses prioritas. Please claim your exclusive spot now before it's fully booked. Penawaran ini hanya berlaku sampai hari Sabtu 26 Juli, jadi jangan sampai ketinggalan. Untuk informasi lebih lanjut, Bapak dan Ibu bisa menghubungi admin QR pada nomor yang tertera di slide. Oke, akhirnya sampai juga kita di penghujung acara. Semoga diskusi malam ini dan insightful and help us to take action for better prepare ourselves, organization, and society to better future. On behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to Mr. Rob Abanat, Master Coach Lely Susatyo, and attendees for contributing to the success of QR Talk. Your active participation and engagement have made tonight both meaningful and impactful. Oke, demikianlah acara QR Talk malam ini. Ikuti terus QR Talk selanjutnya bersama narasumber-narasumber hebat dan topik menarik lainnya. QR Talk akan ada di setiap bulannya. Untuk info terkait detail pelatihan dan informasi berharga lain seputar coaching, self-development, dan corporate excellence, dapat dilihat pada website QR di www.qrcoach.id atau platform sosial media QR lainnya. Selamat malam semuanya. I am Dion.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Rennie.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a
See you
great
soon.
evening.
See you soon, Rob.
Bye-bye.
Thank you
Set
so much.
some meeting for you. Thank you. Thank you, Pak. Oke. Thank you ya teman-teman semua. Good job Dini, Rihan, Reni, thank you. Thank you so much. Semuanya.
Thank you, thank you.
Agung. Agung tadi kayaknya mentah ya, Agung ya? Agung nih kayaknya nggak di tempat nih. Thank you, Vivi. Thanks everybody. Oke.
Iya,
Gimana?
mental sebentar kehabisan
Bentar.
baterai.
Oh iya sama Manabila juga mental kehabisan baterai dia. Anyway, apa? Tadi apa yang mau aku tanyain lupa. Siapa yang meninggal?
Di ini live streamingnya matiin dulu.
Oh ya,
Nah, ini